I will never stop loving my parents, but it's this switch that flips in them when they're talking about what the latest Q drop means.
CNN interviewed a couple of women who have lost their parents to QAnon. Now, this is a very interesting piece. I'm going to play it for you in a second here. And after the video, I'm also going to get into how you can spot a cult and potentially maybe some helpful pointers for trying to communicate with people that have been lost to QAnon. First, here's the video.
I live just a few blocks south of the Capitol, and so I started seeing people walking on the sidewalk heading up to the Capitol with Trump flags and red hats, and I thought to myself, I wonder if my mom's here. I just thought to myself, let me check her YouTube, and lo and behold, she was.
We are here at this rally. Look at this.
I will never stop loving my parents, but it's this switch that flips in them when they're talking about what the latest Q drop means. They're not logical anymore. They're not understanding, and often they're not kind.
Not only does she really believe it, but it intersects in her mind with her religion. She has never put anything else on the pedestal equal to the Bible. And it really feels like that with this QAnon stuff.
A conspiracy theory has taken over both these women's lives, but not by their choosing.
I just want to have a mom who loves me. We're past that.
They say their parents have been sucked into QAnon.
My childhood was as perfect as any childhood could be. In the recent year or 2 years, where this has become so much stronger within them, they've become completely different people.
This woman is still desperately trying to save her relationship with her parents. It's why we've agreed to hide her identity. How did this all start with your parents?
All through growing up, it was constantly, oh my gosh, like the Clintons, oh my gosh, the Illuminati, things like that. But it all started really in the 2016 election cycle. Hillary Clinton and all of the Democrats are pedophilic and cannibalistic people that are trying to control the world. Things definitely heightened when I got to college. They would background search my professors. Hey, your professor, yeah, like they're a registered Democrat.
She knows my wife is a Capitol Police officer. When she did that, that said everything to me. That she was willing to put my wife's life in danger. And if she had called me up or texted me later that day or the next day and said, hey, listen, I was at this rally, it got way out of hand, I'm really sorry, how are you guys? That would have changed everything, but it's been crickets. I haven't heard from her.
We repeatedly reached out to Danielle's mother for comment, and she did not respond. Have they changed their lifestyle in any way as a result of this?
Well, last time I was there, at my family's house, told me that they have 3-year supply of meat in the freezer. Told me that they bought up a bunch of ammo.
Are you concerned that they might blow their life savings on these freeze-dried foods and 300 pounds of meat?
Not their life savings, my college tuition. That's hard.
Whoever's the person that was running this Q account, what would you say to them if you could sit down and talk to them?
I'd tell them that they ruined my life, that they ruined my family, that they took what's supposed to be the best, most consistent, most loving part of my life, and they turned it into evil.
Now, this is something that, you know, I imagine unless you know somebody close to you that has been taken in by this or any other cult, it can be hard to really understand what this is like, because I'm having a hard time understanding what this is like. There's nobody in my life, luckily, that has fallen victim to QAnon or any other cult. But I know a lot of people out there watching, your friends, family have. And I mean, one of the biggest issues that I can understand and see, and as I've read about, is trying to communicate with somebody in that mindset, because you can't really bring them facts. You can't show them, hey, look what it says here in the New York Times. Like they're not, that's not going to get through to them. These are people that are inherently distrusting of mainstream media sources. And by the way, they have good reason to be. When it comes to political commentary, yes, mainstream media takes a very particular perspective, at least when it comes to how capitalism operates and how the wealthy rule, and that appears to be okay for much of political mainstream commentary. But people, while having fair criticisms of political commentary in mainstream news, to just extend that across the board to everything, that everything that comes out of CNN or everything coming out of New York Times is fake, is just insane. And because QAnon is so based in because it's its own community, has its own idea of what fact or fiction is, it's just, I can imagine it being almost impossible to break through into that with actual facts. But I'll get to in a minute here an article that attempts to explain how you can potentially try and break through, but even that is flawed, and there really is no perfect way, of course, to address this. But first here, I want to reference this article from 2017. So this is the quote here is going to be from Dr. Alexandra Stein. This is somebody who fell into a cult in the late 80s, early 90s, before coming out of it and realizing that realizing what had happened. And now she helps to communicate to others how to spot a cult, and as I'm going to get to, correctly pointed out back in 2017 where the Donald Trump base was going. But here she says, quote, "I have a 5-point definition of a cult," Stein tells me. 1, the leader is charismatic and authoritarian. 2, the structure of the group isolates people. The third thing is total ideology, like you only need me and no other belief system has any relevance whatsoever. The fourth thing is the process of brainwashing. The 5th point, she says, is the result, creating deployable followers who will do what you say regardless of their own self-survival interests. And she then applies this, again, back in 2017 to Donald Trump. Shockingly, Stein, who attended the Downing Street demonstrations against Donald Trump earlier this year, also believes that by going on her own criteria, the U.S. president has all the makings of a cult leader. Is he charismatic and authoritarian? Yes. Is he building a steeply structured authoritarian hierarchy? It does look like he is, she says, pointing to how the Trump family's involvement in the government. Is the Trump an absolute ideology? Yes. Does he show us this process of isolation, brainwashing, and fear? The Trump admin is certainly causing fear. And the final one, does he have deployable followers? I think we're going to see it unless we get rid of him quick. So again, this is back in 2017. I think we have seen, we saw with the riots on the Capitol, that he does indeed have deployable followers. So, you know, not a shock here to say that QAnon is a cult. It is. And one other clear point on that, it's like being absorbed into a group of false, sometimes cruel friends. Cults have the illusion of solidarity, but Stein describes them as a perverse group of deeply lonely individuals who've lost the will and the capacity to make decisions on their own. Quote, "You can't confide in anyone in a cult," she says. "If you say there seems to be a problem here, you will likely be punished. So there's nowhere to go. You're scared, but you've got nobody else left in your life. So you cling to the very people who are causing you that fear." I think this, for me, is the dead giveaway. That you are afraid to raise any concerns at all about the direction of where the cult is going or the beliefs that the cult has. Because if you do, then you will be an outcast. Once you spot that, that should be the moment where you wake up. If you are in a cult, if you are unable to speak your mind, if you are unable to raise concerns, ask questions without being an outcast, you're in a cult. Now, how can you possibly help people who have fallen victim to this? I don't think there's any clear way. NBC has a breakdown here, but you can do your own search, of course. Look up, if you're in a situation like this, how to speak to somebody that has fallen victim to a cult. But I'll link to this below the video. You can read through it completely if you want. But I'll go over just the main points here. Engage with the person. So they say here to be curious about their beliefs and how they were introduced to them, and, you know, ask them questions, try and understand what got them into it. So don't enter a conversation being, you know, trying to change their mind, you know, immediately in that discussion, because that you're just going to dig them deeper in the hole. You have to be open open to hearing why they feel the way they do. And also, I mean, it's a learning experience. You're going to learn and just discover why that person finds this ideology, this belief system so interesting. And it'll help you, you know, further down the line, try and engage with them on those various issues or reasons why they have fallen victim to this. Don't judge. Again, you don't want to insult the person that has you know, that is in this cult, because that you're gonna close them off. I think this one is kind of obvious. If you ever try to get into a political debate with somebody, if you just judge them, I mean, they're not going to listen to you. You have to come in empathetic, understanding, listening, and that's kind of your way in the back door to try and talk them off a ledge eventually. But, you know, with the first conversation, you're really just planting seeds, if anything, if not just getting information from them. Appeal to their sense of integrity, reason, and conscience. So, assuming you know this person well, you have to appeal to what the good qualities that that person has that you know of. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of these people, once they're in this cult, it's hard to find those good qualities. They can completely disappear. But if you're able to reconnect them back with the roots of who they are, I imagine that can help them remember who they were before they joined whatever movement or cult they're in. This one, I just don't think it's going to work. I mean, I could say it here, but suggest alternative information sources. You know, unless you're pointing out to non-mainstream sources that are also still covering this information or you know, objective reality, maybe YouTube videos, like whether it's this channel or other progressive channels that are not mainstream, that we criticize mainstream media and their coverage of policy, but we also are objective to the facts, to reality. We understand. I can do a video showing you a CNN piece that, you know, covers a couple of women who have lost family members to QAnon. So these organizations do good work, and we can acknowledge that. But when they do horrible work and push propaganda, we also acknowledge and point that out. So it's important to have balanced coverage in that sense. But yeah, when it comes to trying to introduce people to sources, I think it's important to try and find sources like that are willing to criticize the things that they are also critical of. But then at the same time, those sources also objective, fair, recognize facts, reality, to give you a proper mix of critiquing what they don't like, at the same time trying to bring them back to reality. So I think this is the last piece. There's more. Create a team of trusted allies. So of course, having more people around that individual that you know, you're all trying to work to bring that person back to reality, of course, will be beneficial. So again, I'll link to this below the video. I'll also link to the full. There's actually a 11-minute video discussing, or sorry, 11-minute CNN video on what I just showed you. There's a longer version of it, so I'll link to that as well below the video. And yeah, again, I'm coming from this as somebody who does not have anybody that is in QAnon, so of course all my advice, everything I'm saying here could be nothing, but that's why I try to point you to a source that can help you if you are struggling with this very thing.